Hey guys, welcome to another Disney Blu-ray collection update video. It's been a very long time since I did my last one of these. Of course, I've been over in the UK for about a year and a half, and in that time I haven't been able to put together any Blu-ray collection updates. But of course, my Disney Blu-ray collection has been continually growing over this time. I picked up a bunch of stuff while I was over in the UK, and a bunch of stuff was sent home as well that I'd ordered online and whatever else. We've got some Disney animation stuff, Disney live action stuff, Pixar stuff, Marvel stuff, Star Wars stuff, some random stuff as well. We've got a whole lot of stuff to get into here, so let's crack into it. Alright guys, as you saw, there is a whole ton of stuff here, so I want to get into it and get through it as quickly as possible. You'll notice that most of the stuff in this video is like new releases that Disney put out over the last year and a half. There are a few things here that are missing. My good mate Vince over in Canada, who sends me a lot of Disney titles, has those in his possession at the moment. He's actually going to be sending them out to me over the next few days, I believe. So all of those will be reserved for the next Disney Blu-ray update video, which probably won't be too far behind because he's got about a year and a half's worth of stuff that he's picked up for me over there as well. I think there's like 30 titles that he's got, and once I get them, they'll probably be enough to do another Blu-ray update video, a little mini one. So as I said, a lot of new release stuff here, but as I usually do in these videos, over time I've been picking up little bits and pieces to fill in little gaps in my collection that I for some reason didn't pick up over the years. So there's a whole bunch of that stuff in here as well. Let's crack straight into it. Alright, so let's kick things off with the bread and butter of Disney, and that is, of course, animated films. So, Disney, of course, have been rolling out their signature collection over the last couple of years. I believe the line's probably been rounded out now. The Jungle Book was supposed to be the final title in the signature collection, but they've just re-released the live-action version on 4K, and there's no sign of the animated one making the jump to the signature collection. Usually, the re-release of the live-action would coincide with the signature re-release of the animated version, whether that be in 4K or just Blu-ray, but there's been no sign of the Jungle Book yet. Maybe in a month or two down the line, they will surprise us, but at the moment, there's been no signs, and I kind of have a really bad feeling that maybe the Signature Collection is done and dusted now. Maybe it has something to do with Disney Plus, I'm not sure. I should actually preface this video by saying I am aware that Disney Plus is a thing. I do have Disney Plus myself. I know that I could pretty much watch anything that's right here on Disney Plus right now, but I still think it's beneficial to own the movies that you love physically because you own them forever. Now, here we go. These are the Signature Collection titles that I picked up over the last couple of years. Cinderella, this one was sent to me by my wonderful friends over at Disney in the US. I've been very, very lucky to spark up a really fantastic friendship relationship with those guys over there. They send me pre-release versions of most of their new release titles for me to do a review and unboxing of for the channel. And that's been really fantastic. So thanks so much to Disney for sending me Cinderella. Now these next two here, Sleeping Beauty and 101 Dalmatians, I believe these are the most recent titles in the Signature Collection. Disney didn't send me copies of these because they weren't doing like any PR stuff, like any advertising stuff surrounding them. So they didn't actually send copies of these out to media. So I picked these up on eBay fairly cheaply from a seller who strips the digital code and then just sells on the Blu-ray and the case and the slipcover at a fairly reasonable price, much cheaper than actually picking up on Amazon. So I picked those two up for myself. These two here though, these are the two Signature Collection 4K titles, Aladdin and The Little Mermaid, two Renaissance era classics. These look absolutely stunning in 4K, brand new masters and all of that. Disney sent both of these to me as well, which is absolutely fantastic. Thanks, Disney. Now, Ralph Breaks the Internet is the sole Disney animated title that's been released, like new release Disney animated title that's been released since I've done one of these videos. And this one was sent to me from Disney as well. This is one of the very first ones they sent me, actually. So Ralph Breaks the Internet. Strangely, there was no 3D release of this one over in the UK. I'm not too sure what happened there, because this movie performed, I mean, fairly well at the box office. They have released movies recently in 3D that didn't perform that well at the box office, like Dumbo, which you'll see in a moment. So I'm not too sure why Ralph Breaks the Internet didn't get a 3D release. Okay, so we've got another bunch of catalog animated titles as well here. These are not part of the Signature Collection. These are just being re-released on 4K from Disney. I picked up Frozen in the US because I really love the slipcover, and I'd actually ordered this before they announced a whole wave of animated titles on 4K, which are these ones you'll see right here. We've got Tangled, we've got Zootopia, we got Big Hero 6, we got Moana, and we got Princess and the Frog, all on 4K. Now, these ones were released in the US as well with slipcovers and everything, but I just picked them up here in Australia because it's becoming just really, really expensive to keep buying all these catalog reissues on 4K. I do love my slipcovers, you guys know that, but I feel like I'm at the point of my collection now where I have all these movies in slipcovers in one way or another, and I'm happy to just save some money on buying these locally. These would have cost me about $50 Australian each, maybe $40, $50 Australian each, had I ordered these in from Amazon, but they cost me $12 each here in Australia at a Black Friday deal on Amazon Australia. So I thought to save like $40 a title and a couple of $100 all up, I am buying these catalog ones in these catalog 4Ks in the country because it's going to just save me a whole lot of money. I might make up myself a few slipcovers for these, or if there's anyone out there who does have slipcovers from the UK, the US versions and doesn't want them, please send them my way and they will go to a good home. They'll go on these bad boys right here. But I did pick up Frozen before I knew that before they had announced all of these ones. Disney as I said, Disney has been sending me pre-release versions of movies, but they kind of draw the line with reissues on 4K. They don't send any of those to media because they just, they're not high profile releases really. It's really for a more niche market now. So I will be buying all these myself, but yeah, I'll be buying them in the country to save quite a bit of money. But I will find one way or another to get kind of slipcovers for those. And finally, this is one that I have been meaning to get for years. This is one that I just kind of never ended up picking up for my collection for one reason or another. I believe when it first came out, well, this movie is not a great movie. It was critically panned. It was panned by the audience as well. And I think at the time when it came out, I had just kind of started my Disney Blu-ray collection. And at that point, I didn't want everything. Over time, I have wanted everything and I've gone back and I've filled in these little gaps. And this is the last gap that needed filling in my Disney animation Blu-ray collection. Usually this is a title that goes for anywhere between like $50 and $100 on eBay, and I've just never wanted to spend that much money. Now, I was very lucky over in the UK. I was able to pick up a bunch of stuff on eBay fairly cheaply that I otherwise wouldn't have been able to pick up here in Australia at that same price. Now, this is one, someone was in the UK, I bought this from a UK seller, so someone had obviously imported this from the US many, many years ago, and then has decided now they didn't want it and they wanted to sell it on. I think I paid about $30 for this. It's what I would have paid for it full price when it came out back in the day. It's probably far, far more than I probably should have paid for this particular title, but it was better than paying like $50 to $100. And it is, of course, Mars Needs Mums in 3D. As you know, not a great movie, and many people have pointed out over the years that this is the only title in my animated collection that is missing. So I'm really, really happy that I was finally able to complete that collection, fill that gap, and it's got the slipcover and everything. It's got all the discs, it's like new, it looks like it's never been watched, and I'm just so glad to finally be able to get this into my collection at a really reasonable price. So I'm filling a lot of gaps at the moment, and you will see later on, especially with live action stuff, there's a lot of gaps that I have been filling up recently. While we're still on animation, we may as well take a look at the Pixar releases that I picked up over this time. Now, there were two Pixar releases, brand new releases released while I was over in the UK, and I was able to pop down into a store, HMV, or usually Sainsbury's actually. They go down to the supermarket because they were usually cheaper and they were easier to get to than the local HMV. They are, of course, The Incredibles 2 and Toy Story 4. So I picked both of these up in 3D over in the UK while I was there, so very, very cool. I also got a copy of Toy Story 4 in 4K. This is the US version. This was sent to me by Disney US as well. They usually send me the slip-covered ones because they're the ones that I like in my collection, but they kind of randomly sent me this one in steelbook form. I don't buy too many steelbooks, but this is actually a really awesome steelbook, and I mean, I can't really complain because these guys are sending these to me for free. So I really love it. I actually really love this steelbook, and I'm really happy to have that in my collection. So I've got Toy Story 4 in 4K. I do have a copy of The Incredibles 2 in 4K, but Vince over in Canada has that one. He was buying me a lot of the new release titles as well before Disney was sending me the pre-release versions of them. So Vince has stopped buying me new release stuff, but he will continue getting me the Disney Movie Club exclusive. So Toy Story 4 in 4K. Now I also have Toy Story 1, 2, and 3 in 4K. I picked these ones up in the US with these beautiful slipcovers. Actually, these arrived, these arrived from Amazon US without slips, and I actually put a call out to all my subscribers out there if anyone had slipcovers, if they could send me, if they could send them my way if they didn't want them. One of my wonderful subscribers, Derek, had the slips, didn't need them, and sent them over to me to add to my collection. So thank you so much, Derek, for sending these in. That is absolutely awesome. Now again, those ones were announced and released. Before they announced they were going to do a massive, massive wave of Pixar 4Ks. And again, as I said, I just can't justify buying all of these from the US at like $40 or $50 a pop when I can get them for 12 bucks here in Australia. So these are them right here. As I said, Pixar did like a massive wave of 4K reissues, and I picked them up in Australia, got them for $12 in a deal. You can see 25 bucks there is like the standard price, but these were in a 2 for $40, and then there was like a 30% off or something on top of that, so they came down to about $12 each. There's Inside Out, The Good Dinosaur, Ratatouille, Finding Dory, Finding Nemo, Cars, Cars 2, and Brave. Now the only ones that haven't got a release yet on 4K, I believe, are WALL-E, Up, Monsters Inc., and Monsters University. I think they're the only ones, but they are coming out, I think, in March. So I'll finally be able to complete that collection when they come out in Australia. Again, if anyone out there has slipcovers for these from the US editions and you don't want them, please, please send them in to me, because they will go to a very good home, and I would love to have these in the slipcovers, but I wasn't like paying like an extra like $30 or $40 per title just for a little piece of cardboard at this point in my collection. But again, if you do, if anyone out there does have any slipcovers for any of the Pixar ones or the Disney ones and you don't want them, please, please let me know down in the comments or send me an email and send them my way, because I will add them to my collection right there, which is awesome. So I can't wait to finally, once those 4 are out, I will have all the Pixar movies on 4K, which is absolutely awesome. All right, next up, we've got a bunch of Disney live action titles to take a look at here. Firstly, we'll take a look at the new releases over the last year. Now, I believe all of the 4Ks here were sent to me from Disney, so I won't have to stop and say that every time. The 3D editions were bought by myself over in the UK. First up, we've got The Nutcracker and the Four Realms. We have Mary Poppins Returns on 4K, and then I picked up just a standard Blu-ray edition of it from the UK. They didn't release it. Actually, the movie wasn't released in 3D, so there was no 3D edition of that, but I really, really love this cover, and I actually loved the, I love the standard cover of the UK one as well, much more than I like the US cover. And I actually have, if I look in here, there we go. I actually have the original UK Time to Believe slipcover version of Mary Poppins, so now I have Mary Poppins Returns as well. So that was kind of like a twofold reason. Love the packaging, love the cover, and I also had this one as well, so they will go really, really nicely together on the shelf in that collection. We've got Dumbo. We've got Dumbo in 3D. We've got Aladdin. We've got Aladdin in 3D. We got The Lion King, and then The Lion King in 3D. I loved, usually as you noticed with these ones here, the US and the UK versions had the exact same cover, which is a bit of a bummer. I like them to have different covers, which was the case for The Lion King, which I thought was absolutely awesome. But that doesn't actually happen that often. The Lion King is kind of a rarity, I suppose, but I love that there. See, like, it's nice to own 2 copies of the same movie in different covers, so it kind of feels like you've got a different product, whereas this, it's almost like essentially bought the same thing twice, but anyway. And of course there is this one, the most recent release, Maleficent Mistress of Evil. This is just a standard Blu-ray edition. Again, Disney sent me this one from over in the US. They usually send me the 4Ks, but over the holidays I think wires got mixed, and somewhere along the line my request for the 4K edition got lost in the fold. That's okay, these things happen over the holidays, so I will pick up myself a 4K edition of this movie somewhere down the line. Whether I pick it up in the country for 12 bucks without a slip, or if I find it on eBay really cheap in the slip, I might do that, but I'm not too sure. But for now, I have that on Blu-ray. I did also pick up the original Maleficent. They reissued that in 4K recently, as well as the Cinderella live-action version as well. So I picked up both of those on 4K. Again, Disney don't send out catalog 4Ks to media, so I picked up these myself. I bought these myself. I think Maleficent I bought on eBay, and I bought this one on Amazon. Now there's a few other catalog titles here. Now these are older releases, so these are releases, movies that came out quite a number of years ago that I just never really got around to picking up. Whether that was because I was waiting for them to be released here in Australia, or I was just waiting to get them for a reasonable price from the US, I just never got around to picking these up. Some of them are also new releases as well, but we'll go over those as we go through this pile. So first up, we finally picked up The Queen of Katwe. This is a movie I've been really wanting to see for a very, very long time. I think on my last Disney Blu-ray update video, you'll see that I had actually ordered a copy of this from eBay, and the package arrived and it was the completely wrong title. I think it was Toy Story of Terror on DVD, and it was in really poor condition. But I finally placed another order for it really cheaply on eBay. I think through Music Magpie it was like $10, so I finally got that in my collection. No slipcover, but that doesn't bother me too much with these live action titles. So Queen of Katwe is that one. I also picked up The Odd Life of Timothy Green. And as you'll see, I have 2 copies of this. Again, I ordered these through Music Magpie. Music Magpie can be really great. Sometimes you can get a really great quality disc from them, and then other times you get one that's just got like fingerprints all over it or scratches. And that was the case with The Odd Life of Timothy Green. One of these came absolutely scratched up with fingerprints and everything. So I got them to send me another one, and they also sent me a refund as well. So I don't actually think I really paid anything for The Odd Life of Timothy Green right there. Okay, this one here is another Disney live action. This one I actually didn't know existed until recently, and I found out there was a Blu-ray edition in Australia. I had to go and pick it up. It's called Prom. It kind of looks like a Disney Channel movie, but this one was actually released theatrically. Again, I don't know too much about it, but when I found out there was this in existence, I had to pick it up to fill in a little gap in my collection. Now, I picked this one up on eBay. I was eyeing it off for a little bit. It was $8, and I really didn't want to pay that much for it. I know that's not much, but it looks like a movie I'm probably not going to really enjoy. But I was lucky around Black Friday, or maybe just before Black Friday, eBay offered like a $5 off discount code. So I thought, you know, it's a good time to jump on this movie. So I got it down to $3, and I was happy enough to pay for that. While I was over in the UK, I was able to pick up a couple of catalog ones as well. I finally got a 3D copy of the BFG. Now, this isn't a Disney branded one because it was only distributed by Disney in the US. Actually, in Australia, Disney distributed it as well, but Entertainment One have a deal with Amblin Entertainment over in the UK. So the UK market, this wasn't released as a Disney film, but because I wanted this in 3D, I wanted to add it to my Disney collection, so I've picked that one up in the UK with a slipcover, which is awesome. I also picked up Flight of the Navigator. This is who released this? Second Sight Films. It's an independent distributor over in the UK. Now, this was a film that was released, I believe, as a Disney movie in the US, but it had different distribution arrangements in other parts of the world. So in the UK, Disney doesn't actually have distribution of Flight of the Navigator, but I think that's really cool because Second Sight Films have put out this fantastic special edition version of it. It's a new 4K master. It's not a 4K disc, but it's a 4K master. And it comes with this little booklet here, which got a little rundown on the film and all these fantastic like storyboard pieces of art. There's actually only one mention of Disney in this whole thing. They've even cropped out the Disney logo on the poster there. And I think there's one very small mention of Disney at the front here somewhere, which is like, oh yeah, Walt Disney Pictures Presents in very, very small text. And that's the only time Disney, oh, and then it says here, so it seemed like something of a gamble when Walt Disney Productions and Producers Sales Organization announced the film. And they're the only, well, 2 mentions of Disney in this whole thing, which I think is very funny. And even it comes with this massive poster, and even that doesn't have, even though it has the Disney logo cropped out of there. I kind of was waiting around. They released this in the UK many years ago, just like a standard edition, and I was kind of waiting around for like a Disney branded version, maybe to come to the, maybe the Disney Movie Club, but that kind of never happened. And then when this came out, I thought this is something I need to get my hands on. Now I think this was like 20 or 25 pound, like regular retail price when it first came out, but they had like this flash sale on them on Amazon where it came down to 15 pound, which was like $30 Australian. I was happy to pick that one up and add it to my Disney collection. Even if it doesn't have the Disney branding on there, it's a cool thing to have in the collection. Another special edition re-release that came out in the UK while I was there was Hocus Pocus Anniversary Edition. Now I had the standard edition of the movie. It's not one of my favorites. It's okay. It's one of those cult Disney classics, but the original version didn't have a slip, and I really love the packaging that this one came in. And it also comes with, I believe, a little booklet and some special features on here as well that weren't on the original release of the movie, so I was happy to go ahead and pick that one up. I also picked up the original Pete's Dragon in the UK. This is a Disney movie that I absolutely loved as a kid. It's not one that's really held up for me all that well over the years, but I do really have a great affinity towards this movie. Now, my other copy of it that I've had for many years is a US edition, and it does have a slip. It's a different cover to this, but the real reason I picked this one up was because the UK version of the movie is about 30 or 40 minutes shorter. They cut out a bunch of songs and a bunch of other stuff. One of the things that doesn't quite work for me very well with this movie is that it's just far too long, and some of the songs do drag out. So I'm kind of keen to see how the US version of the movie fixes the pacing issues and all of that. And otherwise, even if it doesn't fix much, it is just one of those cool little oddities to have in the collection. And 2 more catalog titles I picked up over in the UK. Again, this was another eBay purchase. I think I only paid like £2 for this. This is really nothing that I'm all that interested in, but it's something that will again fill a small little gap in the collection. And I guess Hannah Montana is a big part of like 2000s, 2010s Disney culture, and to have that represented in the collection in a very small way for the sake of like £3, I was happy to jump at that. Someone was saying that, of course, secondhand on eBay. And I also picked up the live-action Popeye movie. Now, this is only available on DVD. I wanted to own this because I love Robin Williams. I love Popeye. I did my Popeye cartoon evolution not that long ago. And I just wanted to pick up a copy of the movie. Now, this was a co-production between Disney and Paramount. Paramount retained the distribution rights for the film in the US, while Disney retained distribution rights in the UK. So the UK version of this is the only one where you can actually get the Disney branding on it. So I wanted to pick this one up over in the UK while I was there. Again, I got this on Amazon UK. It was very, very cheap. I think it was like £2 or £3 for that one. So I was happy to pick that one up at that price. We've also got another small stack here of live action Disney titles that aren't actually Disney branded titles. These are all Touchstone or Hollywood Pictures movies. So these are ones that I've been trying to pick up for a while to just fill in a couple of little holes in my Touchstone collection. This one here is Dark Water. Found this on eBay, I think, for about $5, so I wanted to pick that one up. And I finally found Bringing Down the House. This is a Australian version. There, of course, was a US release that is very easy to get your hands on. It's readily available, but the Australian version is out of print. The US version, though, was still going to cost me like $30, and I didn't want to pay that much for a movie like this. I was happy to just kind of wait until someone was selling it on eBay. And strangely, someone in the UK, I think it was an expat Aussie who had moved to the UK, was selling off a bunch of Australian discs. So while I was in the UK, I was actually able to buy that on Amazon UK from a UK seller for, I think it only cost me about $5 in the end, which is what I was really happy to pay. Now, I think I've just about completed my Touchstone collection now, with exception of The Preacher's Wife. Now, again, I can get that available readily from the US on Amazon or eBay. UK, but again, it's gonna cost me about 30 bucks. I'd rather just wait until it pops up on eBay one day for about $5. That's another one that is out of print, but if you actually have a copy of that, whether it is an Australian copy or a US copy and you don't want it and you'd be happy to send it my way, please do, because that's the only like Disney released Touchstone picture film on Blu-ray that I don't have in my collection now. There are a whole bunch. I think most of the Touchstone movies have been released on Blu-ray through Mill Creek, and there's another distributor, is it Kino, Lorber, I think maybe, or someone else has the distribution rights for the Touchstone stuff at the moment. They're very, very, very expensive though, but I think I will maybe pick up a few of them that I do want to add to my collection, but we'll get to that at another time. But again, if you have any of those Mill Creek ones or the Kino ones or whoever it is, and you don't want them, send them my way, because I would absolutely love to have them in the collection. These two right here are two Touchstone Pictures movies that were released through the Criterion Collection in the UK. We've got The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou and Rushmore, both really fantastic movies by Wes Anderson. They were both made by Disney, distributed through Touchstone Pictures back in like 2004, 1998, but again, Disney has relinquished the distribution rights for a lot of their Touchstone movies to other distributors, and Criterion wound up with these two. So I had to pick these up, and these were part of a 2 for £20 deal on Amazon UK, and I think I used a commission on them as well. Whenever I do my Announce and Details videos and you guys buy any movie through the links that I provide, I get a very, very small, like 4%, 4.8% commission on those titles, and every now and then it's enough to actually treat myself and buy a couple of titles. So these two are on you guys out there, so thank you so much for supporting my channel in the way that you do. And finally, we picked up Glass on 4K. I got this one over here in Australia. I didn't really need this one in a slipcover or anything. My version of Unbreakable and Split are both from Australia, so I was happy to pick this one up in the country. Now, before you say anything, the last time I referred to Glass as a Disney movie, my comment section absolutely lit up with people who just so desperately needed to tell me it's not a Disney movie. Well, it kind of is and it kind of isn't. The original film, again, Unbreakable, was a Disney movie. Disney made it, released it under Touchstone Pictures, but then when M. Night Shyamalan wanted to do a sequel, Disney wanted nothing to do with it, so relinquished the rights over to Universal, who then made Split. But then when Split was a bit of a hit and M. Night Shyamalan wanted to go back and do a threequel using the characters from Unbreakable, Disney kind of went, hang on, we want a little bit of the pie. So this kind of became a co-production between Universal and Disney. I'm not too sure how much production input Disney had on this one, but they certainly had distribution input on it. Universal retained, much like Popeye, which was the co-production, Universal had distribution rights in the US, and Disney had distribution rights in the UK and in effect in Australia. So in that respect, I was happy to pick up this one in Australia because it's actually the Disney branded release. If you look down here, you'll see they didn't release it under Touchstone Pictures, but they released it under Buena Vista International, because Touchstone Pictures is basically a defunct banner by now, and Buena Vista International is still a distribution arm of Disney. It's their international distribution arm. Here's a few more just kind of random things. As you know, I've only got a couple of DisneyNature titles in my collection, and I've been trying to find a way to go back and quite affordably piece together the missing pieces from my DisneyNature collection, and I found a way to do that. All my Disney 4Ks from the US, of course, came with Disney Movie Rewards codes. You're not actually supposed to be able to redeem them if you're an international customer, and you certainly can't now, especially since they've overhauled the whole website. But just before they overhauled, I was very lucky. I pulled together a lot of my points, and through Australia Post, here, the post office here in Australia, I was able to set up a forwarding address over in the US. I set up my Disney Movie Rewards to send me a bunch of stuff to that forwarding address and then forward it onward to Australia. So I used my Disney Movie Rewards to claim a bunch of DisneyNature titles that I didn't have, and I sent them to the forwarding address and then sent them home. I ended up paying, I think, about $50 or $60 for shipping, but the titles were free themselves, which broke down to about $20 a title. I think maybe $15, $20 a title, which was actually cheaper than I would have paid for these had I bought them on Amazon. So in effect, I did pay for them, but I didn't pay as much for them as I would have up on Amazon or eBay. So the ones I picked up were Crimson Wing, Bears, Born in China, and Monkey Kingdom. So I think I've got all the DisneyNature releases now except for Wings of Life, I think it's called. It's the one about the butterflies. That one is on Disney Plus, so I do kind of have it in my collection in some way, but I will try and get that one physically if I can somewhere down the line. And of course, missing penguins, dolphins, which I don't think will be released physically since the whole Disney Plus thing, but I am hoping they do get a physical release. Now, this one is not a DisneyNature title, but it is a documentary release from Walt Disney Pictures. It's called Roaming Mars. This one's been out on Blu-ray for years and years. I only recently just found out about it, so I wanted to go and pick it up. Found it on eBay for about $5 from Music Magpie and came in really good condition, thank the Lord. I don't know too much about it. It's a documentary about them sending the rover up to Mars, I think, and it's produced by Kathleen Kennedy and Frank Marshall, so that should be interesting. However, the most important thing about this release is it actually has a full episode of Walt Disney's Disneyland series on here called Mars and Beyond, which is Walt Disney's 1957 investigation into the mysteries of the universe and space travel. Goes for 50 minutes, so that's the entire episode or documentary on there, and that's what I really, really wanted this for, a classic Walt Disney documentary in HD. So that's what I picked that one up for, and that was worth the price of admission alone, I think, on that one, so I can't wait to check that out. We've got a couple of Star Wars titles here as well, not too many. Firstly, I'll show you this one. I picked this one up in the UK while I was over there. It is Solo, a Star Wars story in 3D. So I went down to Sainsbury's and picked that one up. I also recently bought, finally, the 6th season of The Clone Wars, The Lost Missions. This is on Disney Plus, I know, but I have all the other series on Blu-ray, so I wanted to pick this one up. I believe Australia is the only place this was released on Blu-ray. It was like $40 at one point, and I was just like, I'm not paying that much. But as you'll see on the side, I got this as part of a TV on DVD, buy two, get one free sale, and then there was a 30% off on top of that as well. So I ended up paying only, I think, about $7 for this one in the end, which is really awesome. Finally have that in the collection, and now I'm hoping they release the Disney Plus 7th season on Blu-ray once that airs. And one last Disney thing here is the Star Wars trilogy on DVD. Now, this was sent to me by my good friend Brendan, who lives in Sydney. I believe there was a death in the family, and he inherited a whole bunch of stuff, and there was some stuff that he didn't personally want, but wanted to pass on into good hands, into a good collection. And this was passed on to me, which I'm very, very thankful for. Thank you so much, Brendan. This is the original Star Wars trilogy release on DVD. As you can see, all the DVDs are in there as well. Now, I do have the standard box set release of this collection, but this is the steel pack, steel case edition that was exclusive, I believe, to Easy DVD here in Australia, way back when this was first released. This is something I always wanted to pick up, but I had the box set before this was ever released, so I'm very, very happy that I've finally got this version into my collection as well. So thank you so much for sending that over, Brendan. All right, and finally, we've got a stack of Marvel titles to get through here. We're gonna whiz through most of these right here. Firstly, we'll take a look at some of the more new release titles. Now again, rule of thumb, the 3D ones were bought in the UK while I was over there at Sainsbury's or HMV, some of them maybe even on Amazon. The 4K ones were sent to me from Disney as pre-release media copies. There's only one in here that I think I bought in Australia, but we'll talk about that when we get to it. So Spider-Man Far From Home in 3D and Spider-Man Far From Home in 4K. Again, I love the fact we've got two different covers there on the US 4K and the UK 3D, and even better when we slip this off, we've got a third cover under there as well, which I think is really, really cool. We got Avengers Endgame in 3D there and Avengers Endgame in 4K. Same covers there, which is a bit disappointing. Captain Marvel in 3D and Captain Marvel in 4K. Same covers sort of, but the background's a little bit different, so I like there's a little bit of variety there. We've got Ant-Man and the Wasp in 3D and Ant-Man and the Wasp in 4K. Now this 4K was bought here in Australia, which is a really awesome one. This is actually a steelbook. As you know, I don't buy too many steelbooks anymore, but I couldn't pass this one up. You know I love Ant-Man and I love the Wasp. They're two of my favorite comic book characters. I just had to get this steelbook, and it was really cheap. I think it was part of like a 2 for $40 4K deal. I do have a slipped 4K edition of that one coming from Vince, so I haven't received that one just yet. And finally, we've got Avengers Infinity War in 3D. I think this was actually the first Blu-ray that I picked up while I was over in the UK. Don't have the 4K edition of this just yet because, again, that one is with Vince as well. Now recently, Marvel of course re-released their entire cinematic universe on 4K. All the catalog ones that hadn't been released on 4K yet finally got a re-release, so I imported all of them from the US. Now, as I said earlier, I didn't want to buy all the Disney and the Pixar ones because it was going to be too expensive, and I kind of found out that the hard way with these Marvel ones. Now, I think I only had to pay for a few of them. Most of them, I think I used Amazon affiliate commissions on, which again is on you guys out there, so thank you so much for helping put into the collection a little bit. And I actually wanted to pick these ones up in the US because a lot of the earlier ones I actually don't have slipcovers for, so now I finally have at least some kind of complete collection of Marvel movies in slipcovers, which is my 4K collection right now. So of course these were Doctor Strange, Ant-Man, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1, Thor: The Dark World, Thor, Captain America Civil War. As you can see, we're kind of working backwards here. Captain America The Winter Soldier, Captain America The First Avenger, Iron Man 3, Iron Man 2, and Iron Man. Now, they did also, of course, re-release Avengers 1 and 2 in 4K as well, but again, they are with my good mate Vince over in Canada, and they'll come down with the package of stuff that he's got, which will also have Avengers Infinity War in 4K, Ant-Man and the Wasp in 4K, and a whole bunch of other stuff in 4K as well. So keep your eyes open. That, depending on when Vince gets those out, he said he'll probably get them out this week sometime. I will do another Disney Blu-ray update when his stuff arrives too. Now, that is actually it for all the Blu-rays that I've picked up. There's one more very small thing that I do want to show you, like a little bonus extra. Another good friend of mine, a good friend of the channel as well, Alan, aka Kermit's Ghost, has his own YouTube channel out there. He does hunts and Blu-ray hauls and all that kind of stuff. If you love that stuff, check him out. He's awesome. He's a very lovely guy, and one of the great things is he hates slipcovers, and I love slipcovers, and recently he just wanted like a huge purge of all his slipcovers. He sent me like over 100 slips, which was really awesome. Thanks so much, Alan. And amongst those slips were a bunch of Disney ones, and a bunch of Disney ones that I have wanted for a very long time. These are all for titles that never actually had slips in my collection, so finally I'm actually going to be able to have slips for all of these here. Usually I would put them on the covers on the video, but there's so many here that I'll just do them off camera, and you'll see them sitting in there in slips in the collection next time I do one of these videos. But I'll show you the ones that he sent over. Now, Alan, you will notice that you did send me a bunch of other Disney ones, but you sent me so many that I wasn't able to get them in my case to bring back over here to Australia. So they're still over in the UK for me to bring back to Australia the next time that I'm over there. We got Frozen in 3D. That was actually one of the first UK ones that I received without a slip. I'm really glad to finally have that. Big Hero 6 in 3D. I think I bought Big Hero 6 3D in Australia, so it's good to have a slip for that. Basil the Great Mouse Detective, that's the UK title for Great Mouse Detective, and I just kind of wanted a cover for a UK Australian version of the film to show. Again, another one of those little oddities. We've got The Wild, which I don't have a slip for, bought that in Australia. Wall-E, great to have a slip for Wall-E. And finally, the Toy Story movies on Blu-ray will have slip covers as well, which I'm very excited for, 1, 2, and 3. So that's very cool. We've got a slip for The Incredibles, Finding Nemo, Monsters Inc., Monsters University. I do have a slip for that, but I hate the American one, and that is a much nicer cover, so that's going on there. We've got a Bug's Life slip. We've got Race to Witch Mountain, which I don't have a slip for, which is awesome. Tron Legacy 3D, which is this awesome 3D lenticular. As you can see, I've got Tron Legacy 3D sitting just there in the cabinet, so that's where that one's going to go on. Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day. That is actually a surprise because that's a US one. So Alan obviously imported that one from the US because there was no UK Blu-ray of that. And mine didn't come with a slip, so I'm glad to finally have one. He sent me this cool slip for Star Wars The Force Awakens, which will go in my Star Wars collection. A Rogue One 3D slip as well, which is fantastic. And then a bunch of Marvel Cinematic Universe ones for titles. I have a 3D slip for Ant-Man, but I think that one's much nicer. And these are titles that I just never had 3D slips for. Winter Soldier, Iron Man 3, and Thor: The Dark World. So they'll go into the collection as well. But at that is absolutely it. That rounds out my Disney Blu-ray collection update video. Again, I will have another one up very soon when I get that package from Vince. There's going to be a bunch of other stuff in there, new releases on 4K, as well as a bunch of Disney Movie Club exclusives. And I think maybe a couple of like Target exclusive special editions as well will be in there, and maybe some other goodies along the way. But until then, guys, thanks so much for watching this one. Take it easy. I'll see you next time. If this is your first time viewing one of my videos and you'd like to see more like it in the future, then please don't forget to hit that big old subscribe button up on your screen, as well as that like button down below for that little extra support. Also, don't forget to check me out on social media, and please consider supporting me over on Patreon. Thanks for watching and have a fantastic day.